Hi, my name is Tori Martin, and I am kind of creating this little video series for my online stats class. But if you happen to stumble upon this video and it's helpful, I'm glad I could be of help. What we're going to be talking about is descriptive and inferential statistics. And again, for this course, the selected text is Elementary Statistics, a step-by-step approach by Bowman A. That was written in 2023. All right, so our objectives for this video, see if we'll go down. It's like a slight delay. There we go. Our objectives are we're going to talk about descriptive and inferential statistics, and then we're going to differentiate between the two branches of statistics. So, for definitions, a variable is a characteristic or attribute that can assume different values, and a population consists of all subjects, human or otherwise, that are being studied, and a sample is a group of subjects selected from a population. And here I'm gonna see if I can make this a little bit smaller. There we go. All right. So just overall, a population would just be a total group. So a lot of times I like to use, like if I was teaching an in-person class, and let's say it was a class of 45, and so that 45 in the institution is, let's say, Grand Canyon University. That's where this class is being taught from. Let's say the student population is the population, and the class that I'm teaching, that 45 students, that would be the sample. And so the sample is just a subset of the population. And so if I were to survey my class, well, that is just a sample of the population. Later in the class, we are going to kind of talk more about the different ways of a sample, how to sample different groups, and kind of look at the benefits and kind of look at, the cost and how effective it would be versus trying to sample different types of groups or just the population at large, and what are some of those limitations. But yeah, so if I were to just sample my class, that would be something that would be a convenient sample. And we're going to look at different samplings later on in the course, but and we'll kind of talk about how that may be out of convenience for me, but that may not tell me the full picture of whatever I am sampling about. But yeah, this is a really nice little diagram here to kind of just showcase that the sample is just a subset of the population. Moving on. So, the body of knowledge called statistics is sometimes divided into two main areas, depending on how the data is being used. So in this case, we have the two areas being descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. For descriptive statistics, that's going to consist of a collection, organization, or some summarization and presentation of data. So it'd be kind of like very specific data is how I would say it. And the inferential statistics is more like a generalization. So in that case, being like, well, 50% of this population or 62% of this population said XYZ, versus descriptive statistics would be a very specific number. So like 12 people, 100 people, where it's just a very specific number. That would be a descriptive statistic. And then for inferential, that would just be a generalization. So like giving a percentage of a group of whatever their response is. So that's kind of like the difference. And towards the end, we're going to kind of look at a few different examples of these two, and hopefully by the end you kind of have a good picture of how to tell the difference between these two statistics. So let's move on to a few exercises. So first we are going to define what statistics is. So let's see here. So let me try to see what's the best way to do this here. Okay, so statistics is the science of conducting studies to collect, organize, summarize, analyze, and draw conclusions from data. So obviously in this course, we're going to be looking at two things in particular. Wait, to see, what did I leave off? Forgot an I. Yeah, so sorry. In this course, we're going to be looking at probability and statistics. So this first half of the course, we're really only going to be looking at statistics. And then we're going to start to pivot towards probability. But a statistic is when we, again, conduct some type of study, whether it's a survey or the census, where we are collecting, analyzing, and making conclusions from that data. And then that kind of leads us into our next thing here, which would be what is meant by a census. For that, let's kind of talk about what a census is. In a census, the researcher collect data from all subjects in the population. So like when they do give the census, I believe it's every 10 years, what we're doing is we are trying to collect data from the entire population. So it's a bunch of different questions that kind of gives us a better picture of how people are feeling, maybe more of like, there's many things that we get from the census, and it doesn't actually just means like just an actual, the actual census that we send out. Like you can give a census to a school population or maybe at your job. It's just a way for to collect data from all the subjects in a population versus just focusing on a sample. Now, the problem that comes in with a census, and just kind of like in general, whenever you give a survey, most people who are kind of like indifferent about something may not actually do the survey. A lot of times it's either someone who feels very passionately or maybe disapproves of something very passionately. They tend to be the people who would respond to a survey. And so we'll get into that too later in the course, where we kind of look at some of the implications of trying to survey a whole population. You may not get a clear picture of what you are trying to research and get information on. So again, we'll be talking about that later in the course. So the next thing is we're going to explain the difference between descriptive and inferential statistics. So again, we kind of already talked about that, but I'm just going to kind of re-highlight that again, where descriptive statistics, see, I always forget that I, consists of the collection, organization, summarization, and presentation of the data. So again, that is being very specific, like very specific information or results that you got from a survey, not a generalization. That is what inferential is. Inferential is a generalization from samples to populations. Okay. You can also look at it as an estimate as well. But that would be what an inferential is. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of those examples really quick. Oh, sorry. I forgot one more thing before we actually get to that is why is information attained from samples used more often than information attained from populations? So samples are used more than populations. And the big reason for that is it may be more cost effective to be able to survey a small or a sample of a population than trying to sample a whole population, like, because then you have to think about how are you going to collect the data, how are you going to go through the data, how are you like, do you have enough people, like how much time, money, and resources are going to go into having to do that. So again, samples are used more than populations, both because populations are usually large and because researchers are unable to use every subject in the population. Right, and again, we're going to talk a little bit more into this, but really the big picture is it's a lot more convenient to survey small samples versus, or not so much small samples, but just a sample itself than trying to get the whole population, again, due to time, money, effort, usability of all the subjects that may be in that population. It may just be more convenient to just do the sample. All right, so some examples here. We need to determine whether descriptive or inferential statistics were used. And so here is saying 77% of consumers don't think small businesses should stay open on the holidays. For this one, this would be inferential. The key thing being that is 77%. We don't know the total number of consumers who don't think small businesses should stay open on the holidays. And so then in this case, this would be inferential right here. So inferential. All right, for the next one here. Oops, because I hit enter instead of just going down. A survey found that 16.8 days was the average number of vacation days that employees had taken during the year. So for that, this one would be descriptive because we're able to say 16.8 days was the average number. So this would be descriptive here. Next, in a recent year, 39 people in the United States died from lightning strikes. This would also be an example of descriptive statistics here, because we're saying specifically 39 people. And the last one that we're going to look at is 57% of Hispanics in the United States have type O blood. This would be an example of inferential statistics because, again, we don't know the exact number of Hispanics in the United States who have this type O blood. We just know that it's 57. So again, it's a general statement. I really hope this has been helpful. Thank you for watching.